Thank you. So it
And
is my
so, Rachel, if you could, if anybody like has a question, they type it in. I will try to look over there um, periodically, but I'll be looking at the screen mostly. So just kind of like say, Kenyatta, look, you have a question if they do.
Yeah, I'll watch for that too, Kenyatta, and try to let you know if I see a question pop in. So it is my pleasure to welcome all of you to our session with Dr. Kenyatta Nelson Smith from Southern University Ag Center. That is going to be talking to us about some important points about leadership and talent development. And I'm not going to take any more of your time, Kenyatta. Thank you for joining us. And I see we have several others that have come in. If you could jot down in the chat box where you're from, just so we kind of know who's joined us today. And I will turn it over to you, Kenyatta.
All right. Thanks, Rachel. Good morning, everyone. And thank you for putting in your busy schedules time to come and share with us on our CED webinar for the month of March. So the title this month is You've Got the Position. Let's make sure you have the talent. The purpose is to provide quick tips on leadership development to assist community and economic development professionals in better serving our communities. So first, let's talk about position versus talent. So the definition of position is basically a place that someone has been put. You can get it by applying for a job or by being elected or selected. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the skill to be in that position. It's a title. It's just you are a specialist in community and economic development, or a professor, or whatever that title is. That's basically what a position is, and it doesn't necessarily mean that you have the skills to conduct that position in a more efficient, effective manner. And some people are in a position just to collect a check. Their heart's not there. They're not concerned about the communities and their constituents. There's no passion. They are simply there to pay their bills. And because of that, we learned that a lot of the community have resentment towards working with individuals they feel that just are not passionate about helping and serving their constituents. So talent is basically the natural skill. It comes natural to you. We look at gymnasts and athletes and wonder how can they be so good at what they do when you can go and practice that same skill. It comes natural to them. It's a natural ability, and then they enhance it by learning skills to make them stronger and make them better. And so when we're in positions, and we can be in leadership positions, or we can be just, like myself, we're in a specialist position. And when you're passionate about it, what you do is you enhance on those skills. You build on them. You seek opportunities for growth. And you understand that it's not about you. When you're serving others, even though we are in a position, we have a title, when it's our natural talent to be passionate about what it is we're doing, we understand it's not about us. It's about serving those constituents in the communities that we're working with. And you enjoy what you do. It's fun. It's exciting to get a check for getting up and going to work every day. It doesn't feel like work. You're looking forward to that next meeting, or that next class, or that next event or activity or project that you're working on. So that's your talent, and you think working is fun. You enjoy it. You look forward to it. And communities seek your assistance. They when they think about who can help me to work on this project, who can help me to enhance or build, they think about you. They want you to come. Instead of having that resentment, they look to you to come and to help them to reach their goals. So what we must be aware of as CED professionals is working with various groups, when working with them, that when we are called into lead in specific communities or groups or efforts in our states, that all communities are not the same. Not every community can be viewed through the same lens. For instance, many of us are participating in SET, and what makes SET so wonderful is, yes, they take the time and they build this great curriculum for us to work within these communities, but they also allow us the leeway to go and make it specific to that community, because we understand that not all data, not all regional efforts are the same in each region, in each state, in each community. So we understand that every community is not going to look the same. The outcomes are not the same. Their strengths are not the same. We oftentimes want to use a cookie cutter approach wherever we go. Okay, this curriculum work over here is going to work the same over here, and it's not all the time that way. We kind of want everything to look the same. We have to understand that we live in a global society with changes that happen constantly. We can be in the middle of working with a particular module and something drastic. For instance, I was just talking to Rachel. We had the floods down here in Louisiana, which is different for us. Really bad weather, and we had to cancel some of our set classes because the regions could not meet. One of our bigger intersections was closed down. Our Texas, Louisiana, up north, our state lines were closed down. They recently opened back up. But we have to understand that changes happen, and we have to be versatile to be able to address those changes. And we have to know that every community and situation is different. What everybody needs won't be the same. We cannot treat them the same. We cannot provide for them the same information and the same avenues towards achieving their goals. And we must know how to lead a variety of cultures, groups, organizations, religions, whatever it is. We have to be able to be versatile as CED professionals and know that what makes the communities fun to work with is knowing their differences possess challenges for us. I know for myself, I enjoy a challenge. I don't want everything to be the same. I get bored fast. So I look for what makes this different and what can I go and research and bring to them that can be different from the last community or the last group that I work with, because the same is actually boring. And we don't want to become mundane in our CED work. And we have to help communities learn what makes them different from any other community in their region. They have to be able to sell themselves. They're not, like I said, that the lens is different. They need to know what makes them stronger than the next community, what makes them, what enhances their community that the other community does not have. And we have to understand that CED professional, it is not in our control. It is not for us to come in those communities, tell them what they need, and then expect them to follow our lead. We have to go in there with our leadership skills to guide them to build leaders in that community, teach them what it is that leaders are supposed to have, how leaders are supposed to lead, what skills make them more effective leaders, and then we provide them guidance through our leadership and how they can better lead, so that the goal is when we leave, that project will continue. It will not fail, because a lot of communities that I go into, they kind of resent working with the universities across our state, because this exact thing has happened. People come in, they do the work, or they receive a grant, and then they doesn't hear from them anymore. I was talking with a friend from Jamaica, and they really have a lot of resentment towards missionaries, because they feel like the missionaries come into their countries and their towns, and they do all this work, but they don't build leaders. So when they leave, the gardens are grown up, the fields are grown up. There's nobody there to lead the work, to continue the efforts. So we have to make sure that we are there to provide guidance and leadership. And rest assured, when you complete your work in a particular community, the work will continue. That's our goals as CED professionals, not to lead them, but to make sure that work will continue. And when we're working with communities, we have to understand our strengths. Never offer more than we can competently complete. That is extremely important. I am constantly called upon to write a grant for a community, to find money, to bring businesses, things that I cannot make a promise that will actually happen. And writing grants for others, I can guide them in the direction of finding grants, but writing them, I have to do them for my full-time job. So I cannot just tell you that I'm coming here to write a grant. I can guide you through the process, provide you with how it's supposed to be done, but understand your strengths and your weaknesses. It is not your job to go in and to run this community. It's your job to go in and to lead them. And because of their past experiences, they may have some resentment. You're going to go into some communities, and it's going to take you a while to build that trust, build those relationships with individuals, because of previous individuals that's come in, and some of them feel used. They feel like we come in from universities and organizations, and we make these big promises of what we're going to do, and then we leave them hanging and nothing is ever done from it. So we have to always be honest. Never, ever, ever give them false hopes. So, and understand failure is inevitable. As leaders, as CED professionals, we understand that every community is not going to be saved. We cannot save them. Just like each individual, we cannot save everybody. We cannot save every community. So failure is going to happen in any profession, not just for us as CED professionals, but any profession. Failure is going to happen. It's inevitable. So if the project is to succeed, you have to understand that there may lack some support from the community. You're not going to go in there and everybody's going to say, okay, great, Rachel's come in, so everything is going to be wonderful. We're all going to jump on board. You're going to have to build those relationships because sometimes you may lack support from the community. You may not have buy-in from the local leaders or local elected officials, and you may lack funding to do the actual projects or the programs that the community is trying to get going in their community. So you have to understand that failure is inevitable. Certain things are going to happen that's out of your control, and so you have to be prepared to how can we work with them, how can we build that trust, or sometimes how can we work around them to get the job done. So how do we overcome that failure? Through our resiliency. We can never give up. As community and economic development professionals, we've got to understand, yes, that failure is going to be there, but how do we go around that failure to achieve the success that we believe these individuals can achieve? We have to endure. Oftentimes people come up to me and they're like, you'll be a good salesman. You can do this. No, I cannot. I know that is not my strength. That's not where my skills lie, and that's not my passion. I know that I won't endure. I'll give up. I'll probably do it for that day or week, but that's just not who I am. So we have to make sure that if this is our passion, if community and economic development is your passion, then you can endure through that failure. You have to build your skills. Because that's our talent. Our talent is building relationships, building trust, being passionate about serving. Because basically we are servants to these communities. We're there to help them to build and to grow. So we're building on ourselves constantly, and they have to have a vision. We cannot go in there blind. We have to know what our strengths are and what our vision is for the communities that we're working with. And then they also have to have a vision. Where is it that they want to be? Where do they see themselves in 5 to 20 years? And let nothing deter you from those goals. If you are working with these communities, never give up. You're going to have those failures that come. Some things are going to, let's see how we explain it. Okay, I'll check and make sure we didn't have any questions. But there are going to be some valleys. There are going to be some stumps that come across your path. But don't let it deter you. Just learn how to go around it and to maintain that leadership. Be a leader. Sometimes leaders have to make decisions that are not always popular. We have to be a leader. If you're in a community that would like to bring businesses in, but the community only has 300 individuals, it's extremely small, and you know that to bring in a McDonald's, you have to have a certain population that's in the thousands, then you have to be strong and make that decision and say, listen, this is an unrealistic goal. Let's be realistic here. And so as a leader, sometimes you have to not be the popular person. You're not going to be the liked person, and you're going to have to make those decisions, and you're going to have to constantly build on those leadership skills. As we stated in the first slide, just because you have that title, just because you have that position, it does not automatically mean you're a leader. We can look at local, state, national persons that's in leadership positions, and we all can see that they don't possess the skills that we might be, the characteristics that we look for in admired leaders. So since we know that, then we're constantly working on ourselves. How can we better build ourselves as leaders? How can we increase our intelligence, our competence, our networks? How can we be inspiring to those that we're trying to lead? We're always trying to build on our leadership skills and look for opportunities for growth. You don't know it all. We don't know it all. They don't know it all. So we go in and we take like I was recently completed the Lead 21, USDA Lead 21 project. And what I do is I teach a leadership development class, a statewide class here in the state of Louisiana. And a lot of what I learned, I apply in my classes now. The students love it. I loved it when I was doing participating in Lead 21, and I bring it back to them, and they absolutely love it. So we're constantly building on our skills. So successful leaders basically understand they have failed. We recognize it, we acknowledge it, and we don't say it's someone else's fault. We're building on those skills. We know, okay, you know what? I'm going to learn from this mistake, and I'm going to use that to move forward. We realize that it cannot be done alone. We cannot go in and be Superman and Superwoman and save these communities. We have to build teams. As successful leaders, we cannot go in and do it alone, especially if you're full-time and you're working with various projects as we do here in the state of Louisiana. You need a team. You need a support system. And you take responsibility as leaders. It may be something that you did in that community that was not effective, and you have to be honest with them. Tell them, you know what, this did not work. Let's try another route. Take responsibility for your faults. Admit when you have done something wrong, and you learn from it, because we learn from our mistakes. That's how we grow, from our mistakes. If we cannot learn from our mistakes, then we're repeating the same mistakes, the same cycle, and we're not growing as CED professionals. So we're always constantly growing. No matter how big or small the mistake, we can learn from them and we can grow. So once your leadership skills are learned, we as leaders in our communities, in our departments, we know how to be grateful. We learn to say thank you, no matter how big or how small the gesture. We're appreciative. We seek opportunities for growth. By enhancing your own skills, you make a stronger, more knowledgeable leader. So no matter how long you've been doing something, how much you think you know, there's always opportunity for growth. And we appreciate the little things. As leaders, we always appreciate the little things. We don't expect anyone to do things for us. We don't take them for granted. We always show them that what they did matters, what they did count. And we build strong support systems. We cannot do it alone. You need that team. We have to absolutely have that team in order to work. And leaders are realistically optimistic. We have to stay positive. Not to say that you don't see the negative, but we can't just harbor on the negative. That negative may consume us for 30 minutes, an hour, or even a day, but it can't consume us for a lifetime. We have to remain positive, because when we go out and we think that we're leading these communities, they can see when you're not happy, when you're not passionate, when you're not optimistic that the project or the program that you're actually bringing their community is going to be successful. So we have to remain upbeat. And leaders experience positive and negative emotions. We don't harbor in those negatives, but we acknowledge them. We acknowledge that they exist. But as leaders, we experience them both, because we understand that, like we said earlier, failure is going to happen. We're going to experience. Some things are not going to go our way. Some things are not going to go as planned. So we understand them, we learn from them, we grow, and we never give up. The one thing that we as leaders in CE do is we never quit. We never, ever, ever give up. We learn, we go back and we do the research and collect more data and collect more resources, and we start over, or we build on, but we never ever give up. As representatives of our organizations and our institutions, we cannot go in and, because something has happened that has caused us to fail in a certain circumstance, say, I'm not going to go back. Because remember, we're with these communities. They're relying on us, and we're representing our institutions. And that's one thing I always, always, always preach is, when you're representing others, you have to give your all. You have to put in 100%. You cannot give up when you're representing your institutions. You cannot quit, because that's when failure has taken over. And remember, we're going to be resilient. We're going to constantly fight and we're going to win. Okay? All right. So thank you all for participating. That's my contact information. Do I have any questions, comments, concerns?
Hey, Kenya, so while people are thinking, and so those of you that are listening in, if you've got questions or comments, if you want to stick them in the chat box, that'd be great. I wanted to back up, and I apologize. I was not syncing slides with your conversation well. I apologize for that. I loved this slide, though, and just wondered if you
Go
might,
back to it.
and maybe kind of let the other people also think about this, but I loved the way that you had positioned these two different sides, position versus talent. And I think that's
Okay.
really interesting to kind of think about this and think about ways we can really foster talent among people maybe that are, let's say, are, the younger generation coming into CED extension behind us. What are some ways that you can think of that might, where we might can really foster the talent once we get someone in a new position? I realize I'm throwing that at you cold, so I'll give you a minute to think about that. How do we mentor, I guess maybe is a good way of saying that.
Okay. So repeat your question. How do we mentor those coming up behind us?
Right, yeah. So, we're in extension, all of us here on this, I think all of us are in extension. And so we've got this opportunity. We've got some new employees coming in, and they're possibly younger than we are and coming in with, maybe this is their first professional career. And so how can we help move them from this thinking that I've got a position to really understanding the value of the talent and growing their talent side of this job?
Okay. For one, I think it's really important that during the vetting, during the interview process, that we have to make sure that we're hiring those young professionals. Now, the first thing is we know that they're coming with a different mindset and a different set of skills. Young people are extremely tech savvy. They're very, very creative. They need space for growth and innovation. And so we appreciate the skills that they bring in, but at the same time, we're looking for those that are passionate about serving. Because when we're working with communities and the constituents that we serve, then we have to have a heart for the people. And so we have to make sure that we can build on the skills that they have, but that they actually care, that they are not there. And you can kind of just use a sense of discernment during an interview process to determine whether or not they're there for the position or for the paycheck, as opposed to actually being there to serve the people. And so a large part of that will be us. How do we select? And once we select them, then share. That's a really big problem that I see when I came in as a young professional, that not all of the senior level faculty are willing to share. And not just at my university. I reached out to other universities. They're not all willing to share and to build these young professionals up, because we're not going to be around forever. We have to be open and willing to share and willing to help them grow. When we see that they're not performing or they're not doing something that that positively enhance their professional growth, then we have to be honest with them in a professional manner, but we have to always be honest with them. So mentoring is extremely important to me, because I know how important it was when I was hired, when I was seeking that mentorship and that leadership and that guidance. And so I tend to make sure that I am open, I am honest, and that I am willing to share all of the knowledge, all of my resources with those young professionals as they're coming in. Did that answer your question, Rachel?
Yeah, I think that's really great advice. Thank you for responding to that. Other people have questions or comments about this, or maybe some things that you've seen where you've either seen some really good examples of how people have brought a younger colleague along, or ideas that you think would have helped if when you started out, maybe? I'm going to flip to this other slide because I think it's really a cool slide.
Go ahead.
This idea that it's sometimes the pictures in our head of what we think it should be that mess us up.
Exactly. You know how we can go in, and we all tend to do this. We go in and we say, you know what, this is what they need. And we're not listening to what their vision is and looking at their resources and what's realistic for that community. And so we go in and say, this is how it's supposed to be. And so we have to be mindful of that as professionals, that we can't just go in and dictate what a community should look like and what they should be working towards.
Yeah, just I love that idea. Let me just clean out everything off my lens and let the community speak to what they need. That's such a great visual. Well, Kenyatta, I appreciate your time on this. I appreciate your insights and your energy. I know you've just put a lot of your own talent into developing leadership in your state, and I know you've even worked nationally and regionally and been such a strong proponent of CRD work. So thank you for giving us a few minutes of your time on this, and I know that you've got your contact information at the end. Let me get that up in case somebody would like to look at that. Of course, we will. We do have this session recorded, and we'll have it posted. Just as a reminder, we have almost back-to-back sessions because we have this one today, but the April CRD webinar is next week as we change months on Tuesday the 5th. And this will be Susan Jakes and Cynthia Aguilera. So we're looking forward to hearing from them on a program that's around farm worker safety, but it's got a really interesting CRD slant. So if you get the chance, join us next week and we will have another session. So again, Kenyatta, thank you. Thanks to all of you for joining. We really appreciate your time
Thank you.
and supporting this series.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good day.
Thank you.